Okay, I'm going to give you 2 examples of problems like the one on the screen. Find the equation for the parabola that has a focus of 3, 8 and a directrix y equals -2. Now to write the equation, we need to know the vertex and we need to know the value p, which is the distance from the vertex of the focus point. And incidentally, it's also the distance from the directrix to the vertex. So let's draw it out. That's the best way to start, I think. It gives you a better idea of what you're dealing with, which direction your parabola is going to be going. So we'll start by putting the focus point on. It's at the point 3, 8. Okay, so there's our focus point. The directrix. Now we haven't done a problem with the directrix yet, or haven't given you an example. The directrix is a line that sits under or to the left or to the right of the parabola. Okay, it's at y equals -2. So we're going to graph that line y equals -2. So we go to where y is -2 and draw ourselves a horizontal line. That represents all of the points where y is -2. Okay, now the parabola is going to be between these 2 things. In fact, the vertex of the parabola, its turning point, is exactly between the focus point and the directrix. Okay, so we want to find the middle there. Notice we have y values here. We can average them to find the middle, or you can count till you get to the center of those 2 points. But since I had y equals -2 and the focus point, my y value was 8, I'm going to add those 2 and divide by 2 to find their middle, or their average. So 8 minus 2 is 6, or 3. Okay, so we want our y value to be 3. It has to be right in line with that focus point also. So our vertex would be located right here at the point 3, 3, exactly between the directrix and the focus point. We know that our parabola opens toward the focus point, from the vertex toward the focus point. So we know our parabola must open in that direction, which tells us that our standard form, because what we're doing here is trying to write the equation, we're going to be dealing with the x squared type. So again, you'll want to have those either written down or memorized. Okay? And now all we need, we have the vertex. The other thing we need to know is p, which remember p is the distance between the vertex and the focus point. It's also the distance from the vertex to the directrix, incidentally. So notice they are 1, 2, 3, 4, a distance of 5 apart. Okay? The distance from 3 to 8 was 5. So our p is 5. Let's put in the numbers that we have. X minus h is the h coordinate, or the x coordinate of our vertex, which is 3. Our p we decided was 5, and we have y minus the y coordinate of our vertex was 3. So I'm just going to simplify that, and we will be done. X minus 3 squared equals 4 times 5 is 20 times y minus 3. There is the standard form of the equation for that parabola. Right, this gives you one more example. So again, my first suggestion is to look at what you have on a graph. Okay, we are given the focus point is at 1, 5. So let's put that on there first. We're given that the directrix is x equals -2. So that's the line where x is -2. So you go on the graph to where x equals -2. X equals gives us a vertical line. All of the points where x has a value of -2. Now notice that the vertex has to be right in between those 2. So somewhere in here, we want to know exactly where that is. So notice we can find the middle by taking our directrix was x equals -2, and in our focus point, our x was 1. So let's find the middle of 1 and -2. So we add them and divide by 2, just like finding an average. So 1 plus negative 2 is negative 1 over 2. So our x value for our vertex will be at negative 1/2. And it does need to be right in line with that focus point. So our vertex will be right here at the point, negative 1/2 and 5. And we get that 5 because the y value of our focus point was 5. And it had to be right in line with that. Notice this couldn't go up and down because our directrix, it would run into that. All right, so in order to write the equation, we have to know 2 things. We have to know the vertex, which we just found out was at negative 1/2, 5. And we also have to know the value of p, which is the distance from the vertex to the focus point. Now this parabola is going to open to the right because it has the vertex goes from there, it opens towards the focus point. Okay? So that tells us we have a horizontal equation here. Our value of p, how far is it from x being 1 here to x being negative 1/2? It's 1.5 or 3/2. So our p is going to be, you could say 1.5, you could say 3/2. Okay? Let's write that down. We have a y squared, we know because this is opening to the right. So we have y minus k squared equals 4p times x minus h. Okay, h and k are the coordinates of our vertex. Make sure you put the y with the y part and the x with the x part. So we'll have y minus 5, that was the y from our vertex, squared, equals 4 times our p we found was 3/2 or 1.5, because it was 1.5 units from the vertex to the focus point, times x minus h, which is the x-coordinate of our vertex. Go ahead and simplify all that crazy stuff, and we get y minus 5 squared equals 4 times 3/2 is going to give me 6. And then x minus negative 1/2 we would write as x plus 1/2.